Good evening. This side, Rahul Magan here is Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting. As we speak, Treasury Consulting is a multinational, multi asset hedge fund. By multinational, we mean we actively take positions in different part of the globes, which includes United States, Europe, and Asia. By multi-asset, we mean we actively take positions in multiple assets, which includes gold, silver, palladium, and various other asset classes. But like I repeated many a times, we are a proprietary hedge fund. By proprietary, I mean no third party. I repeat, no third party can invest capital in our fund. Today, in this video, I would be covering a very important topic and an interpretation issue as far as the RWA is concerned. Now, RWA means risk weighted asset. It is highly unfortunate that whether it is Basel 1, whether Basel 2, or Basel 3 and Basel 4, all talking about RWA, which is risk weighted asset. But none of them is talking about RWL, which is risk weighted liabilities. So first of all, let me define you what the hell is RWA. Risk weighted asset is nothing but an asset or an underlying position. It might be an off balance sheet exposure also. And unfortunately, I have studied many books of Basel 3, but hardly any book is covering that, the RWA may be an off balance sheet exposure also. So it's an asset, it's an underlying, maybe off balance sheet exposure. But one thing that unites all three is it is subject to have a risk. There are thousands of definitions we have as far as the risk is concerned. But many people do not know that the origination, which means the starting point, the origination of the risk is coming from market risk. Market risk covers pricing risk, foreign exchange risk, currency risk, revaluation risk, translation risk, commodities risk, central clearing counterparty risk, credit risk, and various other risks. It is the market risk which covers all of them. Henceforth, risk weighted asset is an asset underlying or could be a non-balance sheet item or off-balance sheet exposure, you can say, which is subject to have a market risk. Now, when we speak about market risk, we really need to understand that the different NWG. NWG means National Working Group have their nomenclatures as far as the market risk is concerned, which in the technical parlance of Basel 3 is known as credit conversion factor. I repeat, credit conversion factor. Henceforth, RWA is subject to market risk. We also need to understand one thing very, very clearly, that the bank's balance, we need to understand that banks balance sheet also have RWL, which is called risk weighted liabilities. Guys, the banks can handle this two ways, but unfortunately majority of the banks are handling this in a different way. So what are the two ways banks can handle this as far as the RWA, which is risk weighted asset, and RWL, risk weighted liabilities, is concerned? Number one is the cross immunization. By cross immunization, I mean you would be adding RWA, which is risk weighted asset, with RWL, which is risk weighted liability, and you would be hedging them on a gross or a cumulative basis. So assuming Goldman Sachs having RWA of $100 billion, assuming, and having RWL of $80 billion. So Goldman would be hedging 100 plus 80 equals to $180 billion. This is considered as one of the finest, I would say, techniques we are having as far as the immunization is concerned. But unfortunately, majority of the times this technique is not used. And the reason is very clear. The reason is people, bank, system do not have an expertise which can handle the exposure. Because human mind is made up of one thing, which is simplicity. Rather than hedging 100 plus 80, people love to hedge only 20, 100 minus 80. But they forget that if they would be hedging 20, they would be losing and they won't be gaining. And another way of immunization, though I already described, is known as net immunization, which is called RWA minus RWL, which is 100 minus 80 is equals to 20. Majority of the treasury management systems, majority of the ERPs, enterprise resource planning, and the proprietary systems of the banks, they are designed in such a way to handle as a net immunization factor. Unfortunately, majority of the regulatory guidelines, they are also designed on net immunization factor. Now, please be note that why net immunization is a worrisome. Number one, the accounting issues. India is on IND-AS. US is IFRS. US GAAP. UK is UK GAAP. And different countries of the globe, they are having different accounting structures. If you are doing net immunization, there is always a gap thanks to accounting you would be leaving. So example, lease accounting. Example, business combinations. Example, 157, fair valuation. Example, fair valuation hierarchy. Second is the revaluation risk, which can only be hedged using fair value. But if you are taking a net of fair value, then you are inviting a big risk in your balance sheet. Please do remember that. Henceforth, it is always advised to take the cross immunization in Basel III.